You know what's been kinda weird for me? Not seeing anybody talk about Nezha still probably being the best nuke frame besides Equinox in the game by a pretty wide margin ever since Divine Retribution was unnerfed. Everyone just kinda lost their minds because of it, so they dialed it back pretty aggressively, and I mean, just look at this clip of Sabuchi during our creator clash when I used this build.
I need to steal this build, dude. I need to steal. This is fucking wacky.
You got the fucking.
What the fuck is this?
A minute 37.
That is probably the most impressive run we have seen all stream.
This still cooks, and in recording gameplay for this video, I achieved over 200 kpm. That's kinda crazy. So for those of you unaware, or you just need a refresher on this build, let me introduce you to one of my favorites that I have ever played, Dark Retribution Nezha. Divine Retribution, though, is the augment necessary for this build, adjusting his fourth ability, Divine Spears. Typically, casting will root Nezha in place as he spawns Spears of Light from the ground to impale enemies within a base 19-meter radius. There is no enemy cap, and all struck are incapacitated for the entire duration of the ability, but you can recast to slam the spears out of the enemies back into the ground, dealing a very tiny amount of damage. So what do we have here? Good crowd control, and that's about it. Actually, that is it. Lucky for us though, Divine remedies this quite well, stating on the mod that status effects spread to all speared enemies, spear explosions scale by 1.5 times of remaining slash, toxin, and heat status effects, and base radius is 14 meters. Quite a bit to unpack here, but the basic function is simple enough. If I proc any sort of status on one speared enemy, all the other speared targets get said status taxied over to them. And this can cause some pretty crazy stuff to happen, like stacking an absolutely absurd amount of heat dots on enemies, and then they all just kind of evaporate. The spear explosions part is worded oddly here, as there are no explosions within the ability itself, but it is instead referring to when the ability either ends or you decast it. When doing so, any slash, heat, or toxin statuses will be removed, and all of the remaining damage dealt in a single instance, which is multiplied by 1.5 at base. This can be triggered through either of the quote-unquote explosion methods, and is the focus of our build. So that's the augment, but alone, it doesn't kill shit, obviously. But man, do I have the perfect pairing for you, Dark Verse from Dante. Dark Verse is absolutely perfect for a setup such as this one, because casting will cause Nezha to cast a spell or something that, more importantly, deals 2 instances of slash damage with a guaranteed status trigger and stagger to all enemies within 20 meters and line of sight in a 50-meter cone. I'm sure you can see where this is going, as stacking, let's see, 40 very powerful slash dots is kind of insane, and enemies do not like that. Quick disclaimer, the simulacrum is still broken concerning slash dots, so they are not doing accurate damage here, but as you can see in mission, this destroys. Speaking of that, let's look at the build, as it is quite important. If we minimize our duration, and I mean minimize it all the way to 13%, the ability will end practically immediately after casting Dark Verse, but there are a few constituents. You need a lot of casting speed to do this. I'm stacking both Madurai and 2 Tau Forged casting shards because at 13%, spears only remain for 1.5 seconds, and you need to get a Dark Verse cast in there before they go. If you would rather not, or just can't run slightly more duration from either a downranked fleeting or just using a duration mod, then just manually decast, but I can comfortably play with the small time, and it is definitely the most efficient. Otherwise, obviously 265 range and some more strength from Umbral and Augmented to scale damage. I also use Controlled Slide because his default passive annoys me, but you can use whatever here. Enemy radar is a huge recommend, as KPM is so high here, you'll need to be looking at your minimap a lot to find the next group of enemies as quick as you can, and then Arcane Energize and especially Equilibrium to manage the kinda crazy energy drains that this build has. Pairing Equilibrium with a Deconstruct Panzer has more benefits than you may think. You get lots of health orbs from this obviously, and the viral spreads quite easily, the augment capping it out on any speared enemies immediately, You also may have noticed that I used Archon Stretch on Nezha before, and that is because equipping Shock Collar on Panzer will make spore damage trigger the energy regen from Stretch, which, why wouldn't we if we can? There are no necessary weapons here, but as usual, Kratos is great for movement, and I use the Matarai Focus School for additional casting speed as stated before. And there you have it. A massive thank you to my Discord and YouTube supporters, as otherwise I would not be able to do what I do. If you would like to support me there and get videos like this one early, the links are down below where you will also find my Discord and Twitch. Feel free to join and follow. I would love to see you guys over there. Thank you so much for watching. We getting back on that grind, y'all. I promise. Let's go. Peace.